Hey guys, it's Zach here with my 2019 NFL mock draft. So I'm kind of doing this mock draft more of what I would do with each pick, acting as the GM for all the teams making selections in the first round. I'm not doing any trades. I'm not doing any situations like that because it's just too hard to predict those things. If they happen, they'll happen. I may talk about what teams should move up or anything like that, who should maybe target a quarterback or try and move down. Probably talk about that throughout. But I'm just going to go based off where teams are picking today, what their needs are, what the stories I'm hearing, and what I think teams should do with their selections. So let's get on into it. With the first overall selection, Arizona Cardinals select Kyler Murray, quarterback at Oklahoma. Again, reasons to take Kyler Murray here. He is an explosive playmaker, running and throwing the football. He's very accurate. He's got a very good arm. But the other thing that makes him so special, and the reason he's going number one in my mock draft, is the fact that he is so explosive with his legs. He's incredible. He's very fast. And it's not the fact that he's a running quarterback. It's that he's kind of got that Aaron Rodgers quality where he can extend the play. If your pocket breaks down, he can avoid the pressure, avoid the rush. He can get out of the pocket and make the throw. He doesn't want to look to run all the time. He's not like a Mike Vick where his first two reads are gone, pressure's getting down, he's just going to run. Kyler Murray's going to extend the play. He wants to throw the football. And that's a big selling point for NFL teams. They want guys that are throwing the ball, not just running it. But Kyler is so good at both. He's a very attractive quarterback prospect. And again, the Cardinals taking him is kind of counterintuitive with the fact that they drafted Josh Rosen last year. You kind of want to build your team with your quarterback you selected until it's maybe a couple years down the line and they're not working for you. But Rosen had 1 year with really poor coaching, a terrible roster, offensive line that shouldn't have even suited up for games. They were pretty bad, and he took a beating for it. But if they really feel with their new coach and Cliff Kingsbury and his system that Kyler Murray is a better fit, you know what? It's best to take the player that's going to fit better in the system and go on from there, because wasting your time, if Rosen's not your guy, you don't think he's going to be the right fit, you know what? You might as well cut your losses, move forward Kyler Murray, and hope you have success in that system. So then we go on to the second overall pick that's held by the Niners. I have the San Francisco 49ers selecting the best player in the draft, which is Nick Bosa, the defensive end of Ohio State. And with Bosa, you're getting an elite pass rusher. This guy's the most polished pass rusher in the draft. He's also a very elite athlete, so he's got a lot of speed, he's got a lot of power, he's great coming off the edge. And San Francisco really needs the extra pass rush. Like, they did get Dee Ford. They traded for Dee Ford this year. But it's more like a 1-year deal. He only had one breakout year, so we're going to see what really happens. But either way, Nick Bosa, he's too good to pass up here for San Francisco. He really is. Get the best player in the draft. Solomon Thomas kind of isn't looking too hot right now. Look more like a situational guy. If anything, they should move him more inside, play with Buckner. Eric Armstead hasn't done much. The only guy that they've drafted recently in the first round that's been a hit was been Buckner, who had, I think, 12 sacks, I believe, last year. So he's looking like he's the real deal. But you get Nick Bosa, Dee Ford, Buckner, maybe Thomas inside. That is looking like a pretty scary front. And again, the thing with Bosa, clean guy off the field, loves football, high motor. He's going to be there grinding. San Francisco, I don't think you can go wrong with Nick Bosa. Probably the closest guy to a can't miss in this year's draft. So then we have the third overall pick. We got the New York Jets selecting Quinnen Williams. Again, I would go with best available. I think the Jets are in a prime position to trade down. I don't think they would trade down if it's not a good value, not just to trade down, but if they get good value back. But again, if no one wants to come up for a quarterback, then I think the Jets got to go with the best guy, and I think that is Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams, Alabama, is an absolute force on the interior. Incredible athlete. I think you're around like a 4'8", 340, just nuts stuff. And the guy's like 300 pounds. Absolute terror up front. Again, I was reading a story, a couple quarterbacks, high-end quarterbacks, say that the hardest thing to game plan around is that interior pressure. It's very hard to combat, and it's very tough. So a guy like Quinnen Williams, who can push the pocket and make the offense really have troubles, is going to be very valuable to the Jets, who have a chance to be good this year. You have Darnold for cheap. You have all these other players you spend a lot of money on. You had a guy like Quinnen Williams with Leonard Williams, Jordan Jenkins, some other guys that get after the quarterback. Quinnen Williams is looking like probably the best pick. I think him or Josh Allen, it's probably going to be more of a coin flip. But I think if you're going for the best player, I think Quinnen Williams is a more well-rounded prospect. Even though I think Josh Allen is absolutely incredible too, incredible edge rusher. I think Williams is just a little bit more of he's a better player, so I think the Jets will go with him. So then we got number 4, the Oakland Raiders, with their franchise hinging on this draft, it seems to be. Again, best available. Don't reach for a position of need. Go with the best guy. And in my opinion, Josh Allen is the best guy, the defensive end out of Kentucky. Pure edge rusher, which is what Oakland really needs. They got rid of Khalil Mack, traded him out to Chicago for a couple first-round picks. Again, I would have kept Mack. I would have paid him the money because great pass rushers are hard to find. But either way, they did it. They got the pick here, 4th overall. Josh Allen is probably the best edge rusher behind Nick Bosa. Allen, again, incredible athlete, incredible production on the field, a lot of reps in college. I don't have much worry about him off the field. He's a pretty clean guy. Again, incredible bend of speed and power. He's more of a speed guy coming off the edge, but either way, I think he's going to be a really, really polished player playing for the Raiders. So again, here we go. Here's what's, again, most people are mocking this one. I think it's just a really good fit. So we have number 5, Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers selecting Devin White, the linebacker of LSU. Again, I've heard people compare him to Ray Lewis. I think that's a little premature. Like, the guy looks incredible, but I wouldn't put any label like that on any player. That's just too much pressure. But Devin White I see why they say that, though. Incredible 3-down linebacker. He's going to be able to rush the passer if he needs to. He can stop the run, and he's good in coverage. Sideline to sideline tackler. He pretty much, again, checks off all the boxes you want for your linebacker in this day and age in the NFL, where you want to be able to stay on the field and versatility is key. A guy like Devin White is absolutely a must kind of player to have, especially when they lose Quan Alexander in Tampa Bay. Huge hole in the middle of that defense. I think you go there at number 5. If Devin White's still there, we've heard the Raiders have thought about taking him. I think you go with Devin White out of LSU. Plug and play kind of player. Change the defense right away. So here's probably the most intrigue happens at 6 overall for the New York Giants. Again, there's so much speculation with this pick that it's going to be the quarterback. It's going to be Dwayne Haskins. It's going to be Daniel Jones, all this stuff about quarterbacks. I really believe Gettleman, they're going to take the best guy they have on their board. That's, I think, how they're going to draft. They took Barkley because he said he was the best player in the draft. He took Saquon Barkley, number 2 last year. So, again, I don't know what their board's looking like, but I think in my opinion, of what they kind of need and who's left, I think it's Rashawn Gary, the defensive end out of Michigan. I think he's a complete player. He can use power and speed on the edge, kick inside and sub packages if you want to put him there, if that's where you feel he can succeed. Loads of potential with Rashawn Gary. 6 overall, some people may feel that's a little high compared to what he actually did on the field at Michigan, where his stats weren't really there. But you can just see when he was playing, this guy's got incredible speed, incredible acceleration. He's very quick. Again, didn't see the numbers produce like the sacks. He wasn't getting tackles for loss. But this guy's an absolute stud. And if the Giants get him at 6, you have him on one side, start building up the other side. You may have your start of your new forming Giants defense, which they desperately need help at. So again, people may want to put Haskins here, Drew Lock. I wouldn't put a quarterback to the Giants. Again, only people I see taking quarterbacks this year would be the Giants. I highly doubt it in the first round. There's some other teams later on, such as maybe Miami, Denver. The Bengals, I think, are a dark horse to do it. And probably the Washington Redskins are the number 1 team to probably try and trade up. But we'll get to them in a bit. So the next pick we got here, we have number 7. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Jawan Taylor, the offensive tackle out of Florida. Again, with Jacksonville here is more of a look who's on the team. So they spent big bucks on Nick Foles, spent $88 million. So that's your number 1 asset that you have to protect. A lot of money. That's your quarterback, most important position. You have a stud running back when he's healthy, and there's a good line in front of him in Fournette. This is what they got to work for. Your defense is good. Jalen Ramsey's good. Who else they got? AJ Boye, Miles Jack. So with Jacksonville, I think they're pretty much set on defense. I think they can really focus their pick here on the offensive line, making sure that you can protect Nick Foles and open up the run game a little bit more. So then with the next selection, Detroit Lions are on the clock. Lions are going to select Montez Sweat out of the defensive end out of Mississippi State. Main reasons I would say to bring Montez Sweat in is the team is pretty weak on pass rushers. They made the big signing during free agency of Trey Flowers from the Patriots, who is a good pass rusher. He's a very, very good 3-4 end. And I think if they're going to really try and compete this year, they have to amp up their pass rush. So I think Montez Sweat is a very, very good pick for them. He's a freak athlete. He ran, I think, a 4.4 140. He's very quick. A lot of scouts love him. They feel he's a top 10 pick, hands down. The only concern with him, they say, really is he has a heart condition. Basically, he has an enlarged heart, which most doctors have said it's not really a huge issue. There's just had to have some medical concerns at practices and other events that they're going to hold. Other than that, he's a great defensive end. He's a technician. He's very good around the edge, very quick, uses his hands well, and he can get pressure on the quarterback. And I think him opposite Trey Flowers could be a great duo in Detroit to help ramp up their pass rush. So then with the 9th overall selection, I have the Buffalo Bills selecting Ed Oliver. Pretty popular pick. A lot of people think that he'd be a great fit in Buffalo. He'd be a bit of a replacement for Kyle Williams, their long-time serving defensive tackle. Oliver, some people compared him to Aaron Donald. He's very similar to Aaron Donald. I think Aaron Donald was a much better technically sound prospect. Elite hands. Was really good at getting off blocks and getting into the backfield. Oliver was really good as a freshman, but as soon as teams figured out he's pretty good, he was people game planned around him. In the NFL, usually there's a bunch of good players that it's tough to just single out one guy. So I think Oliver should have more success in the NFL level. And with Buffalo, again, I think they could pretty much pick the best available here. They don't have to really reach for need. I think Oliver would be a great pick for them, help up front. Again, generate more pass rush from the interior is a very, very big thing defensively. If you can put pressure on the inside of a quarterback, it doesn't let him step up in the pocket and try to make a throw. He has to try and avoid it. He has to go to the sides. And then hopefully you have pocket pressure coming from the edge as well, so you can try and collapse it as well as push it through the interior. I think Ed Oliver would be a great step for the Bills in bringing some more youth and some more talent to the front seven. And that 10th overall, I have the Denver Broncos selecting quarterback Dwayne Haskins out of Ohio State. Again, this is one of the teams that I could see definitely trading up. Maybe say the Jets at 3. I think the Broncos, they feel like they need to jump up and they really want to get a quarterback. Definitely think Denver's the team to jump up. Again, Haskins is pretty clean prospect. I don't know if I would say he's an Andrew Luck level or Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield level guy, but I think he's slightly underneath them. Only had 1 year to start at Ohio State. He did throw 50 touchdowns, very successful. He had a lot of great playmakers around him that made a lot of big plays for him, so that could kind of be factored in there. But I think with Denver, he's a 6'3", 230-pound guy, strong arm, kind of fits the Elway mold of who he likes at quarterback. But I definitely think if Denver feels that Haskins is the guy, or if it's maybe even Drew Lock, I don't have him going here, but I have Haskins. If John Elway feels that the Broncos' best interest is to bring in another young quarterback to back up Joe Flacco, then I think they're going to definitely go up and get him. In this scenario, I don't have any trades, so I just have Haskins falling to Denver. Again, I think it'd be a good fit. I think he fits Denver very well. Kind of culture, I think would really love to have him, and eventually probably, I think if he doesn't beat out Flacco this year, definitely next year, I think they're going to hand the keys to him in this situation. Number 11, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. I have them selecting Devin Bush, the linebacker out of Michigan. Very similar to Devin White here. 3-down linebacker, can cover very well. He's a sideline-to-sideline player, so fast. He gets to the ball carrier quicker than probably any other linebacker in this class. And I think the Bengals really need to address their front seven and their coverage as well. Bush kind of gets the middle of both. He's not the best at stopping the run, but he's just such a good athlete, and he's so quick that he can get to the ball carrier faster than probably anyone else in this draft. That's exactly what Cincinnati needs. A young stud in the middle of their defense that can help bring everything together. If you have Bush, he's going to be on there first, second down, making sure the run's not going anywhere, and he's going to be there on third down, playing out in coverage, trying to play over the middle of the field. He's a very good prospect for the Bengals at 11. I would say it's great value to get him 11 because I think he could go possibly earlier. I think Denver could target him as well. But I think at 11, Devin Bush really shores up the defense for the Bengals, and he'd be a very good valued pick here at 11. Number 12, I think another pick that will really determine how the rest of the draft unfolds more than others, because I really don't know who they're going to go for here. But I really think Green Bay should definitely take a look at this guy. So with the 12th pick, I have Green Bay taking TJ Hawkinson, the tight end out of Iowa. I've heard some mock drafts. I've seen some going like 7th overall, 8th overall. Again, sometimes it's always the best available. I just think for a tight end, that's extremely high. A lot of times guys will go that high. Look at Eric Ebron. Honestly, had 4 years, a bit of a bust. Did go to Indianapolis, had some success. But I think TJ Hawkinson, if there's one guy to go very early, it's him. Probably the cleanest tight end prospect come in quite a few years. He's an all-around tight end. He blocks exceptionally well, especially for the way the game's played nowadays, especially in college, where usually guys aren't asked to do that. So he's extremely good in the run blocking game, which will get him a lot of reps early on, because a lot of guys don't do that anymore. And he's also pretty good in catching passes. I wouldn't say he's a pure explosive athlete. He's not like a Gronkowski or a Kelsey just making huge plays. I think he's more of he'll kind of run the right route, he'll catch football, and then he's good after the catch. He can break away a little bit. But I don't think he's a Travis Kelsey or Gronkowski type explosive pass catcher. But I definitely think he's going to probably get you 60, 70 balls his rookie year, 600, 700, 800 yards, something like that. He could be a very good addition to the Green Bay offense, who I think just needs some playmakers. Doesn't matter where they are, they just need some guys for sure. So then we go number 13, again with the Miami Dolphins here. I have them selecting Andre Dillard, the offensive tackle at Washington State. Here's why. So again, if I'm the Dolphins, my roster is probably one of the worst ones in the league. They've let a lot of guys go, and I think they just need to take the best guy available. I think Andre Dillard is a franchise caliber tackle. The guy had, I think, somewhat of 700, 800 snaps in pass protection. He allowed 1 sack. That is such an insane number to think of, that how many times he did not let anyone sack his quarterback. That's impressive. And I think Miami needs to start there. Build that offensive line. You still got Laramie Tunsil on one side, plug Andre Dillard on the other. Your O-line's starting to come together. Again, you play with Fitzpatrick this year. Maybe draft a kid later, I think would be a best bet. Maybe like a Will Grier, Finley, Jarrett Stidham. Get maybe another third-round quarterback, something like that, to back him up. But I really think their eye should be on the future and not this year. They just don't have the roster this year, I don't think. I think that's in their best interest, is take the best guy. And I think Dillard is one of the top talents available. And he's also a position of need, so I think it's a really good fit in Miami. Number 14, we have the Atlanta Falcons. I have them selecting Jonah Williams, the offensive lineman out of Alabama. Personally, he's probably my favorite lineman in this draft. I heard some people have said, some experts have said that the Giants, even at 6, is probably the highest he can go. I think that'd be a little rich because we really don't know what he's going to be. I think he will be some sort of tackle, either left or right. In the Falcons, I would project him to be right tackle, but if they feel he's more of a guard, definitely can slide into guard, no problem. But again, probably the most technically sound offensive lineman. He started 3 years at Alabama, starting as a right tackle as a freshman, which is very impressive at Alabama. Rarely do they have freshmen making significant impacts, but he did. And again, I think Atlanta, some people they've always had pass rusher here, but I really think Atlanta here, shore up that offensive line. Matt Ryan was not in the best protection last year. It really hurt their team, as well as injuries on their defense. But I think they have a lot of players on defense. I think they just need to be healthy. But I think their offensive line really needs an overhaul. Like, you have Jake Matthews, but other than that, you have Alex Mack. He's in his early 30s. Maybe he's going to be done soon. I think Jonah Williams helps improve that team right away. That's a guy who's going to be played for you, plug and play for 10 years. Either right tackle or a guard. Very good pick, I think, for Atlanta. Great value, I would say. And then at 15, another team I think that could definitely move up in the draft, which is the Washington Redskins. I have them selecting Drew Lock, the quarterback out of Missouri. Again, I think it's the worst quarterback situation in the NFL. Alex Smith's on the book for a lot of money, and he's probably done for the year. He may be done for his career. He may be able to play again, which is very unfortunate for him. And the other move Washington did to try and patch up the quarterback position was they made the trade for Case Keenum, which I actually think is a good low-risk buy. You just get to pay him a decent amount of money, but really you're having a quarterback that has starting experience and won some big games. So I give that he's a solid stopgap starter for either if Alex Smith is able to return or they go with a new, younger option. I think they do go with one this year. I don't think you can go into the season with just Case Keenum and whoever else you have as his backup. I think you have to go get a young kid this year, and that's Drew Lock. Again, Drew Lock is a boomer bust kind of pick, I think. I think he could be really good. He's got a lot of all the talent you want him to have. He's got a really strong arm. He's accurate sometimes. He's kind of like that Brett Favre factor where he'll make some incredible throws, and then the next series he will throw an absolute no, you cannot throw. And that's his problem, is the consistency really isn't there. And I think in the NFL, it really is. It's about accuracy, it's about timing, it's about consistency. It's not always making the huge, big plays. It's making the right plays as often as you can. That's more what you want to do. And I think that's what Washington probably wants, is a good young quarterback where they could either put behind Keenum, have him challenge for the starting spot, and then if he's able to take over, hopefully that's their guy that they can move forward with. See what Alex Smith is when he comes back, if he does. but I think Washington definitely is a team that can take a quarterback if one's available or if they feel they need to move up. Number 16, I feel like this is a very good fit. And I think it's a good value as well. I have the Carolina Panthers at 16, selecting Clelin Ferrell, the defensive end out of Clemson. Kind of an under-the-radar prospect because of some of the other studs in this class, but he's a very, very good edge rusher. Prototype 4-3 end. I think it's for Carolina. I kind of have it as it's a great value and it's a good need. So I think it's a very, very good pick for them. He's an elite edge rusher. He blends power and speed probably better than anyone else, maybe besides Bosa in this draft. He can get past you quickly, or he can power right through you. I think he's a perfect fit in Carolina to try and replace Julius Peppers. I think it's probably one of the best picks, the most right picks you can have in this year's draft. So then we have at 17, the New York Giants. I have them selecting Garrett Bradbury, the center out of North Carolina State. A lot of people probably want a receiver or Daniel Jones, a quarterback. I really think the Giants are going to take the best available. I think Bradbury is going to be very highly graded on their board. I've heard a lot of teams say he's a very high-ranking player on their boards because he's pretty much everything you want at the center. Clean guy off the field, no concerns, and he's an absolute stud on tape. He's an anchor you can have for your offensive line. So I have the Giants going with Rashawn Gary, help shore up the defensive front, and Bradbury is going to help anchor that offensive line. So you'll have Nate Solder, who hopefully is a bounce back here. Will Hernandez, they drafted last year, who was looking pretty good. I think he should have went a lot earlier than when the Giants got him. And then you put Bradbury in there. I think you have at least 3 really good players in your O-line, which would help out Eli Manning, help out Saquon Barkley and that entire offense. Bradbury, I think, is an absolute, should be the pick for the Giants. They need to help that offensive line, help out Eli. I think that should be their number one concern. Again, I think they can draft defense later on, but I think right now you have to get the best player available. There may be some guys that have a little bit more talent, but I think Bradbury here is a pretty solid bet since all the other offensive linemen in my mock have went already. Number 18, it's kind of similar situation. I have the Minnesota Vikings selecting Cody Ford, the tackle/guard out of Oklahoma. Again, for the Vikings, it's kind of the same deal. If you're going to spend a lot of money on Kirk Cousins, you're going to have to protect him. You're going to have to help him out. So, again, their offensive line last year was pretty poor. They had a lot of guys get hurt as well, so it's kind of going to be part of it. But I think Cody Ford, you can plug him at right tackle if you feel like he's a better fit there, or you slide him into guard. I think either way, he's going to be a plug-and-play player for you, see how he plays. But, again, you got to, similar to Jacksonville situation, you have your hotshot running back, like Fournette, you have in Dalvin Cook in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins, again, you spend a lot of money on. So if you're going to get the best out of them, you have to have a good offensive line. If you have a good offensive line in the NFL, you can win games. Because if you have a big hole to run through, any running back can just run. So I think if you can really set up that offensive line, I think that's their best bet. And other than that, I think Minnesota's pretty solid everywhere else. Their defense, they drafted really well. They made good signings. They kept Anthony Barr, which was huge. And their secondary is looking good. Some guys are getting a little older, but I think they're still in the win-now mode with Kirk Cousins. Get an offensive lineman, get him some help, keep him upright. That's going to be your best situation for Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, getting Cody Ford at 18. At 19, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Noah Fant, the tight end out of Iowa. I think this is an absolute, a perfect pick. Tennessee has Delaney Walker, who's pretty much on his last legs, and he was hurt all last year, so we don't really know what he is anymore. I think Fant, you plug him in, elite athlete. He's going to be a great weapon for Mariota. It's going to really help him develop a lot further because he's been kind of stagnant in his development coming in the NFL. He hasn't had a ton of weapons, and I think Fant is that guy that he can just get to the ball and make plays for him because otherwise he's got pretty much Corey Davis, and that's about it. I think Noah Fant in the seam, very quick, very good route runner as well. He's pretty good, I would say, but I think he's just a perfect fit in the Titans offense. They get him out the field, get the ball in his hands, and let him make plays for Mariota in that offense. I think he'll either replace Walker this year, or I think they both kind of combine this season, and Walker kind of hands the torch to move on with Noah Fant. I think that's what could happen. But I definitely think Tennessee has to add a playmaker for Mariota. They signed a lot of guys defensively. They've made a lot of draft picks defensively. You got to help out Marcus Mariota here. It's his 5th-year option year. So this is kind of the last year for him to prove it that he's a franchise quarterback for Tennessee. So getting him a tight end, an elite weapon, that could really help him. I think it's their best bet. And number 20 here, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some people will probably want a different receiver, but I have the Steelers selecting DK Metcalf, the receiver at Ole Miss. Again, I'm not much into the hype for him, but his combine, I think it was incredible that he could do all the numbers he put up. Like he's 4'3", 340, all the bench press reps. That's all insane, but there's a reason there's a term called the combine warrior for a reason. A lot of guys test really well, and it usually some of them don't turn out that great. So I think Metcalf is really probably the best guy because there was people saying he was a first-round pick, but I think that combine kind of pushed him up the board a little more because it was just so nuts. Again, I think it may be a little bit of a reach for Pittsburgh at 20 because this draft for receiver, I think it's solid, but I don't think there's a guy that I'd want to be spending a first-round pick on, per se. But I think there are some teams that they will take one because they need one, and I think Pittsburgh is a team that does need one. They traded away Antonio Brown, got that drama. I'm actually glad they got rid of him because football's such a team game that Antonio Brown can make a difference, but it's better just to get rid of that crap out of the locker room. Move forward with your new guys, new culture kind of coming in now. I think Metcalf jumping in there with Juju. They have James Washington still there, and they have some other receivers on the team as well. They're probably the best team at drafting receivers in like the mid-rounds. So I don't really worry about them, but I think Metcalf, they could do something special with him. You have him, you have Juju, and then you have James Conner at running back with Big Ben still throwing the football. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are in for a big year. And I think Metcalf, who is more of a straight line guy, possession receiver, down the field, 50-50 jump ball kind of guy. He's not that dynamic, but I think for what he will do well, I think he could be a pretty big pickup for the Steelers here. So with the 21st pick, I have the Seattle Seahawks selecting Brian Burns out of Florida State. An incredible athlete, great edge rusher, uses his speed to really get after the quarterback really, really well. He's one of the, I would say, better athletes in the entire draft. And I think at 21, he's an absolute steal for the Seahawks, who need to address their pass rush after they just traded Frank Clark to the Chiefs. So I think it's a pretty big hole to fill. I think he's a perfect fit for Seattle. And with 22nd overall pick, I have the Baltimore Ravens selecting Marquise Brown, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma. I give him to the Ravens because I think they need a downfield threat to kind of spread out the offense. With Lamar Jackson, the team is really run-heavy, Mark Ingram run-heavy, and a pretty solid offensive line. I think they need that one deep threat receiver that can stretch the field, take some guys out of the box, help let their running game be a little more successful, and give Lamar Jackson a speedy downfield threat to pass to. I think in the first round is a little bit of a reach. I just don't think this receiver class is full of blue-chip first-round picks, but I think there will be a few at least, because that's just the way it will go. Some teams will reach on guys, and the draft's so unpredictable. With the 23rd overall pick, I have the Houston Texans selecting Greg Little, the offensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Incredible athlete, 6'6", 325, pretty much prototypical size for a tackle in the NFL. He was a 5-star kid out of high school, and he did a pretty damn good job blocking at Ole Miss. I think he's got franchise left tackle potential. Will he reach it? We don't know, but I think a little more work and with NFL coaching staff and some more help developing, I think he's going to be a great pickup in the first round for Houston, who need to protect Deshaun Watson. That's their number one focus. 24th overall, I have the Oakland Raiders selecting Josh Jacobs, a running back at Alabama. I think he's just a great kid that they can add onto their team to help them win games, help be a little more competitive. He's going to be a great player running the ball. I think he'll be good in all phases of the running back position. He'll be able to run inside. He'll be going outside. He can catch the ball, and he can block in pass protection. So I think he's pretty much a perfect fit. He may not be the athlete of a Saquon Barkley or someone of that high upside, but I think he'll be a kid that can do everything well, look to be their main guy in their backfield, maybe go for 1,000 yards, a couple hundred receiving, and he'll be a good guy to help block for Derek Carr, pick up blitzes or what have you. 25th overall, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Greedy Williams, the cornerback out of LSU. I think Philly just realized last year that their cornerback depth was not that great since they had a lot of people get hurt. I think you had Greedy Williams in there. I think they'll have about 5 guys to play at corner. You have him, you'll have Jalen Mills, you'll have Ronald Darby, Avonte Maddox, and Sidney Jones. So I'm like, you have 5 guys that can play corner. That's pretty much what you want to be able to have nowadays. I think Greedy Williams can kind of be at his best a Richard Sherman-esque, where he's very athletic. He's got great height and speed. He's not a great tackler, but I think definitely playing the NFL teams could probably coach him up and get him a little more physical when he needs to be. But he's really more of just an outside cover guy. But I think that's exactly what Philly needs to kind of shore up their defense, especially after last season's breakdowns in defense. 26 overall, the Indianapolis Colts selecting Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle out of Mississippi State. I think with Simmons, he's a little more of an investment for the Colts, and I think they can afford to. They're one team I think that can afford to. They have, again, still a lot of money to spend. They're very flexible, and I think they can invest in a player that may have top 5 potential in this entire draft. They can wait, let him redshirt for the year, rehab, get ready, and then come back next offseason. He can be ready to get right at it for the Colts, and I think they could have a absolute stud on their interior defensive line to help get after quarterbacks, and I think he'd be a good fit with the Colts. Again, I think very similar to Jalen Smith in 2016 with the Cowboys. Hurt right at the end of the season, very similar time frame when Simmons got hurt. They kept him out for the entire season, said, we're going to redshirt you, and then the next year he came in, and that was an absolute great fit in their defense. I think Simmons can be that same kind of player for the Colts. 27th overall, the Raiders' third number one pick. I have them selecting Byron Murphy, the cornerback out of Washington. He's kind of very similar to Marcus Peters, a little undersized, scrappy, very physical when needs to be. He's got great speed. He's pretty good ball skills. Again, he's a little undersized. I think he'd be a very good fit with Gary and Conley. I think you could start to see him on the outside, and maybe if he struggles out there, maybe move him inside of the slot. But I think he'd be a very good player for the Raiders to help build that secondary with. And again, I feel like he may be a player that goes a little earlier than 27, but I think if he's there at 27, Oakland should jump all over him. I think he'd be a very good addition for them. 28th overall, the LA Chargers selecting DeAndre Baker, cornerback out of Georgia. Again, there's been a lot of people saying that he's going to fall, but I think he's a senior out of Georgia. He played a lot of snaps, a lot of great game tape. He was very good. I think, again, for the Chargers, it'd be a very good fit. The Chargers had pretty much studs all over their roster. O-line came together. They have Phillip Rivers still, good receivers, young tight end coming back, Melvin Gordon, who's a beast at running back. So I don't think they need to focus about offense at all. Defense, again, they've drafted very well. You have Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram. They got Derwin James last year. Denzel Perryman's okay at linebacker. Linebacker could be a position of need maybe later on in the draft. But I think right here, secondary, a corner specifically, is a very big need. You have Casey Hayward, Michael Davis, and really other than that, not much else. I think Baker could either be their slot corner, and just they can have a really good start from there. He'd be an upgrade for them and help them try and get back into contention. So this was actually the Kansas City Chiefs pick, but in the Frank Clark trade, they traded to Seattle. So I have Seattle at 29th overall selecting Darnell Savage, the safety out of Maryland. I think he's an interesting player that some people have been saying he's going to go a lot higher. And I think in Seattle, he could be that Earl Thomas-esque kind of player, ball hawk. He makes a lot of big plays, but then he makes some bad plays. But I think once you get to the NFL, I think the coaching staff will turn him into making a lot more consistent plays with still having some of those home run plays, those big plays on the ball, and trying to eliminate some of those bad plays he makes. I think he'd be a very good upside pick for the Seahawks, and I think he'd be a good fit in that back of the defense, try and kind of replace Earl Thomas. I think safety could be a very big, maybe not Savage, but I definitely think that's a position they could look at with that selection. 30th overall, I have the Green Bay Packers selecting Chris Lindstrom, the guard out of Boston College. I think it's a perfect fit for Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay, number one priority. Give Aaron Rodgers help to play. They don't need to add more defensive players. They've drafted a lot of defense last couple of years. All their big signings were mostly on defense. I think they need to make sure that Rodgers is well protected, get him some weapons, and let Aaron Rodgers do what he does, which is play like arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. And I think Lindstrom is a very good guard they can have to upgrade their position because that's really their weakness. You have Bakhtiari on one side. They just signed, I think, Billy Turner, if I'm not mistaken, to be the right tackle. So I think now you have to really shore up that interior. I think if Lindstrom is here at 30, I don't think they should think about it. They should just put the pick in. Chris Lindstrom, I think he'd be a great fit for Green Bay. I think he's a plug-and-play player, play for 8 to 10 years at his best. And I think that's what they should be doing. Make sure that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to be Superman every game to win. 31 overall, I have the LA Rams selecting Dexter Lawrence, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. Kind of building on his strength here. I think he could slide further, but I think the Rams, if they look at it in this perspective, that if you want to really get even more out of Aaron Donald, put a big nose tackle right in the middle, let him eat up some blockers, get Donald maybe a little more one-on-ones or just chip blocks, and see if Donald can be even more menacing than he's been. I think it's pretty basic for the Rams. They're good everywhere else, pretty much. They don't have any gaping holes. I think linebacker, definitely they progress a lot better, but I think that could be a position maybe a little bit later in the draft. Here, I think take the best available. I think Lawrence definitely could be. 32nd overall, I have the New England Patriots selecting Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle out of Clemson. I've heard a lot of people saying that he may go even higher, like top 10 potentially, and I think he could. In this, I kind of have him sliding, but I think if he goes to New England, I think it's an absolute perfect match. Interior force, which New England needs help at. I think he's great value at 32. You also get the fifth-year option being a first-round pick. He was a team captain at Clemson. He played a lot of games, a lot of great tape, and he's very successful. He's been successful every year. He's one of the winningest college football players of all time, like that recruiting class. They won, I think, over 50 games or something absolutely insane. I think for New England, you're getting a great locker room guy. I think he's going to fit in well, hard worker, grinder. I think he's a perfect New England Patriot. And so with that concludes my mock draft. If any of you guys have any sort of recommendations or changes you'd consider I'd have, let me know in the comments below.